Now, don't take this the wrong way. If you had a problem with that, get out. That's it. Thank you, Chris Gage. That was Chris Gage on mandolin. I'm about as country as an asphalt road, but man, that worked. Hey, happy Mother's Day. Yeah. All right, let me get a show of hands here. How many of you think there shouldn't be a day when you don't celebrate your moms? Go ahead, raise your hands, give yourself up. Okay, you can leave too now. For the folks that didn't like that. Don't worry, Mother's Day, you're getting fair warning. We're walking toward Mother's Day over the course of this month. Mother's Day is May 14th. Hopefully you'll buy some flowers for your mom, or you can make a contribution and give flowers to somebody who's a mom, perhaps separated from their kids, far away from home, or all alone, or somebody who couldn't afford to buy flowers. And we're gonna press into Mother's Day. But the journey that we're going to take there is an uphill climb. It's a hard journey. Because I don't have to tell you that the times they are changing, that the world we live in and what we know of as family is changing. Just in my short lifetime, I have seen dramatic change in family systems and in family structures and the form of family, what people consider to be normal for families. I've seen that change dramatically. And the statistics bear that out. Just after World War II, the Family Council did an analysis and found that 87% of American households were two-parent families. By 1950, there were only 9% of American households that were overseen by a single mother. In the years since 1950, that number has more than doubled to where now 19% of all American households are headed by a single mom, and 73% of all households, only 73%, are headed by two-parent families. In the years since 1960, in 1960, 9% of all children lived with single parents. Today, that number is 38%. There are 15.7 million children who are being raised by single mothers and 3.4 who are being raised by single fathers. Today in America, 40% of all families are blended families. I read a statistic, and I couldn't find backup on this one, so take it with a grain of salt, but I read a statistic in my research where they said that 1,300 new step families are being formed every day in America. Today in America, since just since the laws about marriage in America changed, that we have gone from a clear minority to over 1 million same-sex couple families in America. And 15% of those families are raising children and have children under the age of 18. There are 292,000 children in America who are being raised in same-sex partner families. The demographic and the structure and the form of family has changed and will continue to change. But what we want to explore is what are the things, no matter what the form is, no matter what the structure of the family is, what are the things that never change? What are the things that we cling to? What are the things that we work for, regardless of our stories? And we want to set the table for this conversation by hearing from Riverbenders, from people who have their own family stories and call Riverbend their church family. So this morning, I want you to hear from them directly. So I've asked our executive family pastor, Nick Steinlowski, to put together a panel to lead them through a conversation about their stories and what family is like for them. So would you welcome our executive family pastor, Nick Steinlosky, this morning.
Thanks, Dave. Well, as Dave was just saying, yeah, families have definitely changed over the last few decades. I remember growing up as in the church and just even seeing that firsthand. When I was about 2 or 3 years old, 1971, my mom got divorced. And back then, right, in the church, if you went through a divorce, it was looked at as a very negative thing. And the church responded that way. They kicked my mom out of church. And so I don't know about your story and how family has impacted your faith, how family has impacted how you have family today, right? We all have family of origin issues, right? That's why we all go to counseling, right? And it's because our families messed us up. And so the reality is that families look so different today. I remember sitting down with a room full of pastors about 5 years ago. I remember having this conversation with them and just asking, what do families look like in your churches today? And we came up with a list of probably 20 to 25 different types, if you will, of family units. And so it looks a lot different than it did in 1950 or 1971, right? The families have changed and they look different today. And Riverbend is no different. We pulled a small sample of families, of people together to come and share today with us their story and how they operate and what the challenges are and what they even celebrate as a family. And so I'm going to invite the panel to come and have a seat up here. We're missing one. Pastor Wren is going to join us in a second. He's over with the students and he's teaching. So soon you'll see this tall, Langley, kind of guy coming in and joining his wife up here in a minute. But this is our panel, and I'm going to ask them to just grab the mic that's nearby them and to take a second and introduce themselves and how long they've just been here at Riverbend and a part of the community.
I'm Don. This is my wife, Jolene Lawrence. We've been at Riverbend since 1990. Okay, I got that right.
Hi, I'm John Gravel. My wife and I have been attending Riverbend and been members here for about 10 years.
Hi, I'm Ferreira Kalohe, and I've been here at Riverbend since about 2013 or 2014.
Hi, I'm Amber Arpol, the other half of Wren Harpol, and we've been here about 1.5 years.
Fantastic. So we got quite the spread here of longevity up to just like the Harpols and myself being around Riverbend for just about 1 year. So a good cross-section, and not just as far as how long we've been here at Riverbend, but as well of, again, our own family of origin stories. They were kind enough to share some of that with me, to have a little bit of understanding of where they're coming from, but also, again, in their current situation of what their families and their makeup of their family looks like today. So we're going to go through some questions, and they're going to field these and answer these as they feel led to. They got them ahead of time, so this isn't completely on the spot here. But we want to create kind of just a family room, almost atmosphere, more organic approach to this. So we haven't rehearsed this at all. This is just coming from our heart and from our experience, just to share with all of you. Again, with the intent and the hope is for all of us to. Hey, Ren, how you doing today? How was student ministry?
Oh. You were just saying we haven't rehearsed this, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was good. We just had a message about sex. We're in a sex series, so it's good.
Yeah. Sounds like you just kind of ran over here, too, a little bit.
I did. I ran as fast as I could to be here with you. Thank you.
Good, yeah.
And sorry.
No, you're good. Yeah, so this is exactly what you're getting, right? And this, again, authentic is a word that I love to explain to people when I am telling them about Riverbend, is that we are a community of authenticity. We're a community of authenticity, and we can be raw. We can be just completely honest and transparent with our stories because we all have them. We are all broken. right? Again, all of our families, there's not a perfect family out there. Leave It to Beaver does not exist, right? And so we all can relate to that. And so we're just going to go through these questions and share them with you, and then Dave's going to come back up at the end and kind of conclude our time together this morning. So Dave already kind of mentioned this by sharing some of the statistics that he read, that families have changed over the last few decades. But I'm curious to get your perspective on maybe why and how, what looks different. Because I've often heard this from people. Oh, families are in a, what's the word? Families are completely falling apart, and there's no value of families anymore, and they're destructive, and it just looks like the American family, it's not a priority any longer. And sometimes I hear that, and I go, well, maybe your definition of family of what you think family was supposed to look like, it's not that any longer. But what does it mean to you? Like, how do you see it? How do you guys see kind of the value of family in our society today, and what does it look like? Whoever wants to jump in first.
It has certainly changed. Jolene and I were married in 1959. Families are more, I guess, global now.
More what?
Global.
Global. Oh.
We have two son-in-laws, and they have a home in Austin and a family in Austin. They have a seat on an airplane and a hotel room somewhere in the world. But they always manage to make it back to Austin for special times. I guess being more global, families are more scattered. They don't have the closeness that they once had. And I guess they don't have the dedication that they once had.
Definitely more global. One of the things that came up in our chapel service is that for Easter, we hosted a brunch after the services. And kind of the intent, it was open to anyone, but kind of our hope was that people who didn't have extended family would kind of say, oh, I'm not going to Grandpa and Grandma's for the egg hunt and for the ham, so I'll stay here. And we had over 400 people stay for Easter brunch here on Easter. And I don't know about you, but yeah, that was amazing. It was beautiful. But I think some of that captures this idea that what you were just saying, that families are scattered more now today. Like, I'm curious, even you here today, how many of you don't have extended family in Austin? Look at that. Yeah, there's a lot of us. I'm that way. My family's up in Washington State, right? And so for us to do something as a faith community of family to get together, man, that was a huge win. Anybody else? Just thoughts on that?
When Ren and I were talking through this question this week, I just kept coming back to the lack of community that I feel like a lot of us have, especially post-COVID. It's really easy to just kind of stay to yourself. And, the saying, it takes a village. Without a village, it's really hard to keep a family unit together sometimes. So I think just having a good community around you or finding a community is really helpful for keeping a family unit together and strong.
That's a good answer, Amber. Yeah, definitely a value that families have today is leaning into others, that community sense. That's good.
Yeah, I'm afraid that my wife and I are part of Dave's statistics that he mentioned. I had a strong family background, but despite that, we both had previous marriages and divorces. But I would say, despite that, I think it's important not to give up on the normative family, even though we have to deal with the reality that families come in many different shapes and sizes and forms. I think it's important not to dismiss what somebody might label as the ideal or Leave It to Beaver family. I think it's important not to be dismissive of that.
Thank you, John. Well, what is true of families today? Like, what are something that all families might have in common? What are a couple things that come to mind that you think, oh, this is important and all families have that? Might look shape a little different, but it's a value that everyone has.
I think that all families try to do the best they can or the best they know how with what they have. And I also think a lot of families try to do better than, how they were raised and give a better experience than what they experienced growing up. So, yeah, just my 2 cents.
That's good. Anyone else?
Yeah, one of the things that kind of struck me, I've seen a lot of really good families, a lot of really bad families. But the thing that strikes me is that there's a lot of power in family, whether it be for good or for evil. That the power of the family impacts and molds the lives of its members. So I think the family is a very important thing because of that power. In fact, people talk about the family as the building block or the fabric of society. So because of the power the family wields in either direction, I think it's important that we tend to it.
Very good. Ferreira, you were going to say something?
I was just going to mention that, I think the question was what's something that you see
Yeah,
is
it's
consistent with all different kinds of families.
Yeah.
I think just something that comes to mind is that inevitably, we are going to hurt family members, whether intentionally or unintentionally. It happens, and I think that's a challenge. I know that's a different question, but that all families have to go through, or not. I've seen like where they invest work into navigating that or not, and I think that the pain does hit deeper whenever it's family.
Jory?
I think one of the things that makes family work, it all boils down to love, which is a trust and forgiveness and honor, respect. And if those are the things that keep a family together, I think.
Very good. This reminds me of the saying, everything you need to learn, you learn in kindergarten, right? Love, respect, courtesy towards other people. That's so true in our families as well. Well, what is unique to your family story that brought you together? That maybe this is a little bit of the family of origin story question. Has it either helped you or made things more difficult in your current family situation? Is there anything that you can draw from, just from your experience, that you would be willing to share? I asked them to share as much as they felt comfortable. They can go to the depths of sharing that they feel comfortable, but this is a little bit more of a personal question, just kind of asking it from your own story, your own family of origin. What's formed you? What are some things that maybe have formed you, shaped you into like how you operate in family now that's good or not so good?
I guess I'll go first. So I was actually separated from my family of origin, my biological families. I spent some time in foster care before I was adopted by my adoptive parents, and that's how my life began. And so, that's, and my current family, and I have a lot of, I'll just mention quickly, hold a lot of grief for that loss of my biological family, as well as a lot of gratitude for my adoptive family, and I do hold both of those simultaneously because I feel that it's healthy and necessary. And in terms of my current family, that just consists of me and my husband Jason. We both share the commonality of having been separated from our biological families in some capacity. I have his permission to share that he's donor conceived and I'm adopted. So we've had to navigate, I forgot your question, but okay, I think, so yeah, it's just navigating a lot of that trauma and kind of redefining what home and family mean to us. So
That's a good answer. Yeah. Anybody else? Rand?
Yeah, I think part of what's made me is both of my parents were sort of the black sheep of their respective families and were really rebellious and kind of tried to find identity in other things that were kind of heavy, and so that was the life that I was born into, and my brothers, and then we kind of all got better together, and through that I experienced a lot of things that that I never want to do as a parent, that my kids will never feel or experience. But then there are a lot of things that really inspired me with how recovery and turning their lives around and finding Jesus and staying together even through it all, that's really inspired me. And those are the things that I do want to kind of pull into our family and who I am as a husband and a dad. So it's kind of like non-example and example a lot, but I think everything is, you can learn from anything, right? So.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I'll just say that both my parents and grandparents had a huge impact on my life, and a lot of what I consider good in my life, I owe directly to their influence and how they raised me.
Let's go on to this next question here about what challenges does your family face right now that others need to know? Again, being a little transparent here, what are some family, in your current families, what are some challenges that you face that you would be willing to share with others?
You're better at this.
So we're a foster and adoptive family. 2 of our children are adopted. And one of them has an open adoption, so that creates some difficulty, as you can imagine. And then almost everyone in our family has at least one medical, probably more than one medical issue of some sort. So type 1 diabetes, celiac, a couple mental health things. We've just got a lot of things that we're working through as a family, and it brings us together, but it also divides a lot sometimes. So that's kind of what we're dealing with in our household right now.
I'll add on to that if you are here and you have children, listen, we understand that the challenge and uniqueness of this generation with mental illnesses and challenges of towards whether it's depression or anxiety, whether it's diagnosed or not, you're not alone. You are not alone as a parent. Walking through some of that Amber just said, you're not alone. And we're stronger together. We're here for one another. We realize that it's everything you read, it's on the rise. It's on the rise. Anxiety, depression, all those things that kids are struggling with today. You're not alone. It's on the rise, but we're here for you. Other things.
Yeah. Thanks, Nick.
I'm going to mention, if it's okay, some a little bit of personal things. But like I mentioned, as an adopted person and also my husband as a donor-conceived person, there are a lot of, there's a lot that comes with that in terms of trauma, that separation. I think when you think of the word adoption, there's a general narrative that the general public might think of when they hear that word. And I'm sure y'all are familiar with that. But there's also an authentic narrative from these adult adoptees who have to live the experience. And so I think the challenges for us would be navigating that trauma. And, of course, this trauma comes up in relationship. And really prioritizing work around that, being really self-aware of how that manifests. And then, repair and resolve takes so much empathy for the other person and just the courage to be vulnerable and having really difficult and painful conversations. But the other side of that is you establish, there's healing that comes with that. And it makes our bond stronger, and there's that's just been a really rewarding process.
I think Don and I have been very fortunate in the challenges or lack of challenges that we've had in our life. But I think as families have changed, and we've watched our girls grow up and our granddaughters grow up, and their friends and what's going on, for us to learn to be accepting of those changes.
So good, Doreen. Listen, boomers and that's it. Accepting it, and then offering yourself in the wisdom that you have to the next generation of parents. and not be judgmental and be like, well, we used to do it this way, but to understand that it's changed and it's different. You have so much to offer. If you're in this demographic, you have you have so much to offer, so much to offer us. Continue to lean in, to be curious, and to offer your wisdom, your ideas, and also, which is important too, in that, is to also take a posture of listening, to listen to Rin and Amber and other families and other young adults that are there, to listen and lean in, because it goes both ways. It goes both ways. I'm curious on some of these challenges that we do have, all of us in our families. How has your faith impacted your family? How has your faith in Jesus impacted your family, and how you face and go through some of these challenges that, again, we all have? Did you want to answer that?
Oh, he wanted it. He took the mic.
You took the mic.
Yeah,
You grabbed the mic.
he wanted it.
You grabbed the mic. We thought, oh, he's got something to say.
You know, in hard times, when things aren't going right, if you don't turn to God, I don't know where you turn. Well, I do know where you turn, and those are not good places to turn. But if you can just instill in your children, your grandchildren, and in my case, great-grandchildren, turn to God. Give it to Him. Just offer yourself up.
Others, how faith has impacted your story?
Yeah, it's kind of different for us. For me, especially with adoption, I was going through seminary at the time when we were having kids and adopting them, and I was like, oh, the theology behind this is so cool, and how Christ adopts us into His family, and I was like, it's like I'm watching that with these kids that, as far as the state is concerned, they were born to us. We give them a new name. They have an inheritance from us. And so my faith was just growing and coming alive. And then, and the challenge is, I felt like God was showing up miraculously in a lot of different ways through people who were helping provide for us and all that kind of stuff. But I was kind of doing that personally and on an island. And it was a little different over here on this side of the couch. And so challenges.
It was different for me. Unfortunately, the things that we saw through foster care and adoption, and the things that we went through personally, shook my faith and made me question a lot. And I'm still rebuilding a lot of that, but it's really hard to hold a newborn baby in the middle of the night that's withdrawing from drugs and look at the God that you grew up with and, seek out a relationship with that God without questioning things. So that was really hard for me, and I'm still kind of in the rebuilding phase of that.
Thank you, Amber, for sharing that. Yeah. Don, you had another thing you wanted to add?
One of the wonderful things about being a grandfather is when, both of us, we get a call from a granddaughter that's having a big test coming up, and they say, would you pray for us? Or he's asked me to marry me. Would you pray for us? That's very rewarding. You think, maybe I did something right.
That's so good. John, do you want to, I would love to hear your perspective on this question of how has your faith impacted your family?
So I think families are ultimately about relationships, and relationships are hard, probably the hardest thing. And quite frankly, I don't see how you can really get through it without God. And we make mistakes. We mess up. We've all messed up. Some of us have some big fails in our lives. I certainly do. But the thing about having a faith in God, trusting God, you've got somebody there who's going to see you through that. And despite your mess ups, your big fails, He's there to catch you and pick you up and take you where you are and move on. So.
Thank you, John. For me, I'll answer this question as well. Is I don't do this well. I don't do this all the time. I have to constantly remind myself. But I have to see my wife and my kids as children of my King. And if he's truly my King, and I want to serve him with all of my life, the idea of worship, right? That worship isn't just what we do up here. It's every day living a sacrificial life for others and worshiping my King, serving my King. Then that's going to transfer to my actions of how I serve my wife and how I serve my kids. I don't see them as an obligation that I just have to take care of or an annoyance of any way. But I see them as kids of my King. And if they're actually children of my King, man, I'm going to serve. I want to serve my kids. So how does my faith play out in my relationship in my marriage and in my family? That's one way for me, is that constant reminder. I have to do it constantly because I don't want to get up and clean the dishes and put away the toys and different things. I want to just take care of me and go and do my thing. But again, to have this heart and this idea and this mentality of wanting to serve my kids and my wife because they are children of my King, that has helped me have a perspective. Maybe that'll help you too, just this perspective in my relationship with them and how my faith is interwoven into that as well. Well, we got a couple of last questions real quick. Well, maybe I'll just ask maybe one or two of you to answer this one because of time. But what would you say is one of your family's like core values? What is a core value for your family right now?
Yeah, so I'll speak to this. I think because of some of the past failures that my wife and I have had, one of the values that we hold dear in our relationship is intentionality, being proactive in working on our relationship with each other, but first our relationship with God, and then with each other, my wife and I and our kids. But we have discovered, because of those failures, that being proactive and intentional and not letting things just cruise or go, because they will go downhill, that intentionality, scheduling time, scheduling purpose is very important in at least those three relationships.
And I'll say I've seen that firsthand in John and Cindy's life because they signed up and came to our Riverbend's family marriage. We had a marriage retreat back in the fall or whenever it was, I can't remember now. And they showed up for that. And he shared that there too, the intentionality of showing up at a marriage retreat and investing in the relationship. Others, like how is maybe, again, a core value to your family?
I was just going to say, just treat others the way that you want to be treated. It's like a lesson you learn in kindergarten, and it's funny how many people on into adulthood are still learning that lesson, and so I think that's our goal. I mean, I'm speaking to myself just as much as my kids, and I think that's one we have in our family for sure.
Thanks. All right, last question I want everybody to share on this last question is, how does your family celebrate? What does your family do for fun and to celebrate?
We don't have any fun.
What was it?
We don't get to have any fun.
4 young kids.
If we could celebrate.
Food.
That's good.
Yeah, we really love to cook at home. It's something that me and Jason love to do. There's a lot of food. We like making new recipes, trying out different things. Yeah.
Donna, Doreen, what do you guys do to celebrate?
Well, when we saw this question, on any kind of special occasion, whether it's birthdays, Christmas, Easter, Mother's, whatever, I was telling my girls about it, and I said, how everybody comes to our house, everybody goes to Mimi and Bob's, and we eat. And she said, so you're saying we celebrate food? And I said, that's pretty much it.
Food. There's a theme going here, John. What do you guys do to celebrate?
Yeah, of course, we like to celebrate by gathering, getting together, and of course always food. But one thing in particular that we like to do as a family is we play games, whether it's Jackbox TV or board games. We love to play games. We find that we can connect very well through gameplay.
Ren and Amber, for real?
That was my real answer. We were over here, we were talking literally, what do we do? Do we have... Seriously, there are so many challenges. It's really difficult to actually ever get out and do anything fun or celebrate anything as a family. Like, we do it individually and stuff. But I think one thing that we really enjoy and that we do have fun doing together is getting out to, we have some land, and just getting out into the woods and getting on some four-wheelers and dirt bikes and just cooking over a fire and shooting some guns and blowing some junk up or something. I don't know, just being outside and eating some animal, you know what I mean?
I hear you. All right.
I don't know. I'm pretty Texas.
It's Texas right there. Right? So when he told me that the first time, I was like, I was
This
from
guy
Seattle,
knows.
right? And I'm like, you do what with your 8-year-old? What is that? He's like, oh, yeah, snakes or whatever. We just capture them. I'm like, what? So anyway, for us, it's a lot more simple. We have a special plate. We have a special plate, and if anyone in the family has had a special thing to celebrate, a special moment, or got a good grade on a test, or a birthday, or whatever it might be, we literally have a special plate. It's called the special plate, and they get to eat dinner off of that plate for the night. And so it's really simple. So again, I opened up by sharing with you, again, a little bit of my story, and that back in 1971, my mom got divorced and was kicked out of the church. But I'm so thankful that she didn't let that impact her faith and her spiritual journey. She found another church and she found another community to be a part of, and she found she got remarried, and the journey continued for her. And I know that for so many of us, our stories are part of who we are, and they are sometimes hard to navigate and to get through and to walk through. But our hope is for this next series, you're going to hear from Dave and others, just how that God looks at your family and says, I'm not done with it. I'm not done with you. I'm not done with your family. And so there's so much more. There's so much hope. I hope that you come and not miss over these next 3 weeks. Can we give it up for the panel here this morning as Dave comes up?
Thank you, Don and Joreen and John Ferreira, Nick and Amber. It's very emotional for me because they just represent hundreds of stories that I know, hundreds of journeys that this community of faith represents. And I'm hoping that in the coming weeks we can be as honest as possible with figuring out how to navigate the dynamics and the complexities. Because I'm unapologetically bigoted. I believe in the family. And I believe that it's worth fighting for. It's worth the work. And I want us to be courageous, but I also want us to be honest. And so we're going to look at the book of Proverbs, the book that is held up in the Bible as the book of wisdom. And I want us to learn what it teaches us about family, because it teaches us three very important things. That everyone is someone's neighbor, and everyone is someone's sibling, and everyone is someone's child. And the wisdom that God has for us strengthens us in the fight. Before we leave today and close in worship, I'd like to pray for that and pray for all of us on this journey, particularly between now and Mother's Day, that we can strengthen each other as family, in family. Would you pray with me? Father in heaven, I would ask that as we navigate the changing currents and dynamics of what family means, that we would understand that it's something that is worth pursuing, that is worth doing, and is worth working at. And so I pray that as we enter into these weeks, that we might experience together your blessings as a family. For we ask these things together in Jesus' name. Amen.